Hi there, welcome to another Q&A with Mike, and today we have a question from It's Paul Norman, who asks, what should we avoid when buying vintage guitars, e.g. spec, product, years, condition? So that's a very wide-ranging question, Paul, but I'll try and answer it as best as I can. What to avoid? Generally, the years from 1974, 75 onwards are generally not the best years for either Gibson or Fender, which are the two brands we specialise in. I don't know what it's like for the other guitars around that period, but we just specialise in Gibson and Fender. And generally, quality started to fall off during those times, on both brands. So if you're looking for a vintage guitar, I would try and find one which was built before 1974, basically. Other things to avoid when buying a vintage guitar depend on what you intend to use a vintage guitar for. If you're looking to buy a vintage guitar to play it, then it's a different set of criteria to if you're looking for a vintage guitar to collect it and have an investment asset which will gain value. So I'll start with the playing aspect first. If you're on a budget and you want a vintage guitar which will increase in value but not by enormous rate of increase, then you can go for things like neck repairs on Gibsons. You can go for refinished Fenders, usually best if you try and seek out ones which have just had body-only refinishes. With Gibson, neck repairs are the most common issue. As long as you find one which has had a well-done repair, then as a player you'll get a very, very good instrument. But as a collector it will be frowned upon, and it won't add value as much as an all-original will. With Fender refinishes, yes, that'll obviously devalue it by at least half. But again, if a refinish is done well, then you'll find they will increase in value. They certainly have done over the last few years. And you'll get an excellent player's guitar at a good price, but it won't show the gains in value which an all-original one has. To answer a question from a collector's perspective is quite different. If you're looking to acquire a vintage guitar as a collector, as an investment, then you really need to find one with no issues, no neck repairs, no refinishing work at all, and the minimum amount of change parts. You can always swap parts, and yeah, some people do it, and it's impossible to say when parts have been changed in a lot of cases. But if you find a guitar which is original finish, no repairs, no structural issues, no wood gouged out of it anywhere, but it has a few changed parts, then if it's a good deal, then buy it, because you can replace the parts and you'll get yourself a guitar which is pretty much as it left the factory. There may be discolorations which will give the game away, but generally your guitar will now be vintage correct rather than all original. This is sort of a grey area, because you can't tell in a lot of cases if a guitar is all original or it's vintage correct. I mean, dealers may say that, yeah, they've replaced certain parts, but there's no way of knowing the guitar's previous history, and you don't know what's been done there. So be wary of dealers who describe their guitars as all 100% original, because it's impossible to prove that it is. You may think it's all original, but you don't know 20 years down the road if somebody's replaced a knob, a switch tip, or anything like that. So anyway, to go back to the question, you should avoid guitars with major issues if you're looking at it from a collection viewpoint. The other thing which you don't want from a collector's viewpoint is you don't want any extra routing under the fingerboard, and I'm generally talking Fenders here. You don't want humbucker routes, which are probably great for sound perspective and great for players maybe, but collectors would very much frown upon those sort of modifications. The last bit of your question was spec. Now that's again quite a wide-ranging question. Generally speaking, Gibsons from the 50s are the ones which people tend to seek out for. Fenders from the 50s and mid-60s are the ones which people seek out for. So spec-wise, you're basically looking pre-CBS Fender. Gibson-wise, you're looking pre-65 Gibsons. The main spec of Gibson is the nut width. Most of the Gibsons, vintage Gibsons, had a 43mm or 1 11/16 to our US friends nut width. These are far more desirable than the later 41mm or 1 9/16 nut width, which came in 1965. Guitars built from 1965 through to the 70s will have this narrow nut width. They're generally considered less desirable than the ones with a 43mm nut width, so try and get ones with a 43mm nut width. Fender then is, as I've already answered, it's basically pre-CBS guitars are the ones which are the most desirable. However, there's an increasing market for what's called transitional Fenders from the years 65 through to 67. These guitars can be identified from the usually gold transitional logo on the headstock, and they offer great value. There's some great guitars in that range. Generally speaking, when the logo turns to a black CBS block logo, then the desirability seems to wear off. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you can, and give us a thumbs up if you like this. If you have any other questions, then just leave a comment below or send us a message on Instagram, on Facebook, or even send us a message through email. Okay, thank you.